Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Tennis Manager 2021 playthrough. We are at the beginning of the 24-25 off-season, have a few weeks to revamp what we're doing with our tennis academy. For the second straight year, we've had the departure of our leading player. Lost Maxime Cressy a year ago, which was not shocking where his goals were and where he was in the rankings. And then just most recently lost Stefan Kozlov, who chose to leave the academy even though he's ranked 45th in the world, and his goal for last season was to get into the top 50. So that was a bit surprising. That being said, we do have Zachary Svida on board. He's on holidays right now. In his first year with us last season, moved up about 300 spots in the ranking to 122nd in the world. So we have big hopes for Zachary this upcoming season. You can see he won 9 tournaments last year, 2 at the 80 level, 6 at the 20 level, and 1 at the 10 level. So that collaboration went very well. The goal is to find someone who we can team up with Zachary this season. I think looking at the potential players out there, I think looking at somebody who is kind of at a similar stage in their career to Zachary might be interesting. Tristan Boyer, ranked 381st in the world and a little older, and Garrett Johns, ranked 533rd in the world and a little older, stand out as more seasoned players. But I'm kind of honing in on Bruno Kuzuhara, who is ranked 172nd in the world, 19 years old. Potential for him to become a pretty good player. You can see his stamina, natural fitness, balance, very strong. Pretty good with his focus, anticipation, positioning. Needs some help with the fighting spirit and killer instinct. Needs to work on his speed, and then his serve power needs a lot of work. But the rest of his game is actually reasonably solid, particularly for a 19-year-old. Our scouts kind of see him as having 3.5-star potential, up from 2-star potential today. So I think that he is potentially the first person we're going to go after. Zayn Khan and Victor Lilov are also possibilities of players who we have scouted in the past and look like they have roughly 3.5-star type potential, could be good additions to the team. But we are going to wait to see what our goals are for next season before making any rash moves. Also hoping to upgrade our academy's infrastructure. You can see we've got about $313,000 right now, so we could upgrade any of the sports center, medical center, or youth and scouting center. Quite honestly, I think we're going to try to upgrade the business center if we get a cash infusion from the board of directors, particularly when you're starting an academy at the bottom of the barrel, which is what we've done in this playthrough. Generating money is critical, and the business center that we have right now generates $17,000 a month. If we upgrade it, that'll increase our average revenues a month to $37,000. So obviously an extra $20,000 a month, an extra $240,000 a year in cash that will generate for us. So it'll pay for itself in less than 2 seasons. And then hopefully give us the financial wherewithal with the extra money that the business center is generating, as well as hopefully winnings coming in from our current and future players to kind of start some of the upgrades to the stuff that more directly impacts our players on the court. So that is the high-level plan as we are thinking about getting started. And at the end of our last episode, I did mention that I was considering moving on from our agent, Benjamin Clifton, who's been the agent with us for a few years at this point and has never actually found a racket, apparel, or shoe contract for any of our players. Given that we're likely not going to have a top 50 player this season, though, we may just let him run out the string. If he's able to find a contract for one of our lower-rated players, great. If not, the hope is that Zach Svida, by this time next year, will be well-positioned, in the top 100 in the world, hopefully, and hopefully be in position where if we have a better agent to hopefully get an updated contract for endorsements, which would also help the financials of our academy. And we have gotten the cash infusion that we hoped from our board of directors. They put $430,000 into the academy, and they've also given us our objectives for the next season. We can only have one departure. We need to have a balance of 0 over the season, and this is the one I was most rating for: recruit only players with a different status than secondary player. So now, when we get into recruiting our new addition to the team, we'll know to not bring any secondary players on board. With the extra cash, we are going to look to upgrade our business center, so we are going to get construction on that started. Should be about 7 months. Will be a big addition for us the middle of 2025, when hopefully that construction is complete. And you can see, with just $300,000 left, not going to spend the money on one of the other upgrades right now, simply because unless we got real lucky in terms of tournament winnings, we probably would end up in the red and need a cash infusion from the board of directors, which would not make them happy. So hopefully the business center pays off for us over the long term. And now our main goal is to recruit a player. And I'm going to see who's interested in joining us. And it looks like maybe I waited too long on Bruno Kuzahara, because he's no longer interested in joining us. Is he still out there? Yeah, it looks like it's not saying that he's interested anymore, which is unfortunate. Let's see. Yeah, he's not interested in joining our academy, so that's a little disappointing that a player that we had targeted a week ago and was interested a week ago no longer is. But we will do a little more work and figure out who makes sense to try to bring on board. And I see 2 potential players who look a little more interesting. One is Emilio Nava, who is a more veteran player, hardened, 4 out of 9 on his experience level, but still only 23 years old, ranked 159th in the world. You can see just a very solid, respectable profile as far as the technical attributes, with the exception of drop shot. Pretty solid physically also, very good footwork, balance, and natural fitness, and he's got a solid mental profile as well. Seems to be the type of player that we could really move up in the rankings pretty quickly with. Question is whether he will be a secondary player if we make him an offer or not, or whether he's still kind of a promising young player. Another option would be Zayn Khan, 22 years old. Pretty similar. He's 229th in the world. Not as exceptional a profile in terms of his technical skills or his physical skills or his mental skills. Maybe he's young enough, though, that he would have a role other than secondary player. And then the last one that I'm kind of thinking about here is the 19-year-old Victor Lilov, ranked 201st in the world. You can see a pretty solid technical profile for a player of that age. Needs to work on his speed and his stamina, which we could certainly do. The big issue with him is his killer instinct and his confidence are both pretty low. Would have to build those up over time, but he would be an option if we need to go with somebody younger. But I think I'm going to try to make an offer to Emilio Nava here to join the academy. The question will be whether he's looking for and whether he's viewed as something besides a secondary player or not, because that's the one type of player that our board of directors doesn't want us to bring on. And he wants to get into the top 100 in the world, win an event at a Grand Slam. Those objectives are fine. He is a secondary player, though, so that could be a problem. I don't know if we could call him a major player or a key player. Let's see if we could possibly consider him a promising player. Major player or secondary player are the only options for him. If we call him a major player, we can still sign him for 4 seasons. I think the issue is that his signing bonus that he's looking for is going to be much more significant, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. Yeah, and you can see he's looking for a $119,000 signing bonus. Our share of his earnings to drop down to 30%. I'd like to bring him on board. I think he's a player that we can move up in the rankings with pretty quickly, and I think we can have him in Grand Slam events, maybe not by Australia, but certainly by the French Wimbledon and U.S. Open. I don't want to pay $100,000 to bring him on board, though. That's for sure. Let's see if we can cut his signing bonus down really materially to less than 80,000. If we also cut the revenue share back, which should make him a little happier, to 26%. This could make him angry, and he'll just move on. Contract looks good to him. All right. Let's see. We saved a good amount of money on the signing bonus. We won't be earning as much from him, but still 26% of his earnings. If we are able to get him into some Grand Slam events, still could be enough to certainly help the bottom line for the Academy. So we have made the offer to Emilio Nava. We'll see whether he will be joining the Academy. And Zach is back at the Academy after the holiday, so we are going to focus this first week on just physical skills. Speed, balance, and agility are kind of his weakest areas. Always want to work on stamina too, so we're not going to work on anything technical this first week of training. We are just going to physically drive him into the ground. We're going to do an extra endurance test, extra sprints, and then some extra footwork on Saturday. So a super heavy workload for Zach Svida in his first week back as we start preparing for the 2025 season. And good news from our agent, Benjamin Clifton, that Emilio Nava has agreed to join us. So we are going to sign the contract. Cost us some money to bring a player like him on board. But as I talked about earlier, his profile is really interesting. Pretty good technically, pretty good physically, and pretty solid mentally. There's areas that he needs to work on as a 23-year-old, but I think we can easily get him to 100th in the world this year. We'll have to see what he's actually looking to do in terms of his contract. And then I've also got to assign people to him. I think since we had a lot of good luck last year with Zach working with the other coach on our team, that I will take on Emilio as the player that I'm going to be working with. So looking at the Academy and our team, if I can get to the right assignments tab for our staff, I am going to assign myself to Emilio Nava. We're going to put his care under Pella as his physio, training game plan, Kilzian. Going to also have technical training and tactical and mental training from Kilzian, physical training, Visaya, and technical training with Cheryl Pitt. So a little bit of work for everybody to do. So we've got 122nd ranked player in the world and 159th ranked player in the world in our academy. So right now there's no guarantees that we're going to have anybody in the Australian Open. They'll probably both need to qualify for it, but I think there's a good chance that we could consistently have multiple players in at least two, if not all three of the last three of the majors this year, if we're able to get Zach and Emilio moving up in the rankings in January, February, and March, and even into April of the upcoming season. So even though it's only early December, it's time for us to start planning out tournament registrations for both Zach and Emilio. So we'll be working on that. Just also a quick look in at Emilio's goals. I know we looked at these briefly when we were offering him the contract, but his goal is to get into the top 100, win a match at a Grand Slam event, get into the main draw of a Masters level event, reach the round of 16 at a 250 or 500 level event, and get into the top 18 in the United States, which is only one better than he is right now. So moving from 159 to 100 is not going to be simple. But as I've talked about, I really like his overall profile. I think he's a very solid player. We can get his serve power up a little bit, work on his stamina and speed over the next couple of weeks as we prepare for the season. And then I think smart management of his tournament schedule will help us get him into the top 100. And Zach Svida actually has basically the exact same goals, getting into the top 100, wants to win win a match at a Grand Slam event, get into the main draw at a 1,000 level event, round of 16 at a 250 to 500, and move up one spot in the rankings. So, in terms of tournament scheduling and planning for both people, we have very similar goals for both Zach and Emilio this coming season, which should hopefully make it pretty easy to manage their tournament schedules. And we don't want them playing against each other every week, but I imagine at some point during the season they'll probably be playing against each other because they're going to be playing in similar tournaments to achieve their goals. And as we're getting close to the end of the off season here, it's nearly Christmas. Have had super heavy workloads for both Zach Svadja, who progressed well over the past week, and Emilio Nava, who only progressed a little despite a super heavy workload. So we've been working both of the players hard. They've both been accepted into qualifying for the Australian Open. Obviously, it would be wonderful if we could get both of them into the tournament, but at this point, with where they are ranked, if we end up with one of them in the main draw, that would still be a nice victory for our academy. So another week and a half of training, and then we're going to be off to the regular season. And we've made it to the end of December. We are at week 1 of the 2025 tennis season, which is starting this week. Moderate progress from Zach Svadja over the past week. A little bit of progress from Emilio Nava, given a heavy workload, but hopefully they are both healthy, and hopefully both are ready to begin the 2025 season. Was a quick but productive off season for the old school sports tennis academy here. Brought Emilio Nava on board. Have big hopes that we can get the 23-year-old into the top 100 in the world this season. Also hoping to get Zach Svadja into the top 100 this world. He'll be 22 years old this season. So I'm going to be working closely with both of those players. And then the big news from our infrastructure is that we did get to start that construction on the business center, 6 months away from hopefully putting ourselves in a better financial position. So the hope is that by mid-year, both of the players will have some Grand Slam events under their belt and also be in the top 100 in the world by about the time that business center is being constructed. But we will be checking in on our progress on all of those fronts in our upcoming episodes. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and we will be back in our next episode with the winter hardcourt season here in Tennis Manager 21 on Old School Sports. Thanks so much for watching.